Hey guys, today we're going to be checking out the Tern Vektron. It's a folding electric bike. It's actually the only folding electric bike that we offer in our shop because we found it really to be the best quality one out there. It uses the Bosch motor system and it's available in a couple of different configurations. This one we're checking out here is called the S10. It has a 10-speed derailleur. It's also available in a version called the Q9, and that has a 9-speed derailleur, slightly different motor system. It's also a Bosch, but it has the active line. This one has the active plus, so slightly different torque between the two, but otherwise pretty similar. This bike is really popular because it's, one, really good quality, but two, it can fit a variety of different riders. So it'll fit anywhere from a rider at 4'9" when you drop the saddle all the way down, up to 6'5" when you use these two seat posts and extend it way up. Now you have this adjustment, for the seat post. You can go way up here at the top position, but you also have the adjustment here with the handlebars that you can adjust to different positions. And Tern also makes available a different mast here that you can raise this up another couple inches. This is available for some of their other bikes as well, which I find it works really well for riders that need that extra height. For most, the standard setup is just fine though. Some other details about the bike: 20-inch wheels, front and rear. It folds, pretty compact, and since the bike folds, it really increases the versatility of the bike. I mean, many people might use it to take on a train or a subway. Oftentimes there's limitations on how you can take a normal size bike, or if you can at all, but usually a folding bike can be considered as luggage. Now there's also the ability to put a cover on it in some scenarios where maybe they say you can't take a bike, but you can take luggage. And there's kind of this weird scenario where actually if you put a cover on your folding bike, it kind of becomes more luggage than a bike. I find that sometimes people in the city especially might want to take the bike on the elevator, and there's some concerns about that. But if you put a cover on it, maybe it's less likely somebody to get dirty from it or something like that. So that's a nice option to have and something to consider. I find a lot of other people might use it to put inside their trunk, or maybe they have limited storage space inside their home. Or another really popular scenario is boat users. I mean, we're actually today right in this marina, and we picked this partly just because it's really beautiful. It's pretty sunny. I got my hat backwards today, but it's a nice setting, and yeah, nice place to ride around. Now I want to show how to fold the bike. So to start, we're just going to put the kickstand up. And actually the pedals are kind of already in the correct position, but normally you might have to pedal backwards to put it all the way into this kind of 9 and 3 position with the left side pedal, or the non-drive side pedal, facing this way. The next step is going to be to lower the saddle, and you're going to tilt the saddle a little bit to the left. So we're going to lower the top portion of the saddle, then we'll lower the bottom portion. And then we're going to take the handlebars and rotate them upward. Now you might be in a different position here. So say if the handlebars are here, you're going to put it all the way in the up position, and then you're going to rotate the handlebars upwards like this, so that it'll basically make the bars as flat as possible. The next portion is going to be to fold the bike in half. Now, if you see here, we have these little locking levers, and you're going to push the locking portion here, open this up, and then you're going to fold the bike in half here. Now from here, we can fold the handlebars down. Now there's a small strap here to lock the handlebars into place, and then we can also utilize this strap here in order to hold the bike together a little bit more firmly. Now one other detail to make the fold a little bit smaller is you have the option to remove this extra pedal. Now on the previous version they had a saddle that could store the pedal. This one does not have that, so you'll need to put it somewhere. but it's a nice option if you want it to have this kind of flat side to it. One thing I would recommend is if you want to store the bike or lay it on this side for some reason, you'll want to generally put the derailleur into the lowest gear, making it really tucked inside here. So that's going to protect the derailleur pretty well. But to remove this pedal, we have this locking clip here, this little yellow C-clip. We're going to push this off and then push this in, and then you have the ability to remove the pedal. To put it back on, just going to stick it right back in, push that locking mechanism back, and then put the C-clip. For the tires on this bike, we have the Schwalbe Big Apples, and this is a 20-inch by 2.15, relatively wide tire, and it's a balloon tire, meaning that you can run it at a lower pressure than normal. They kind of really beef up the sidewalls here to allow it to run at a lower pressure, which gives you added comfort. Might lower your efficiency a little bit, but most people don't mind that so much, especially when you have an electric motor here. Now, these Big Apple tires are made primarily for the street, so it's a relatively slick tread to them. But with this 20-inch size, you can get all sorts of different tire options. Now, the Big Apples, they do have some puncture protection, but there are some other options if you wanted to get even more puncture protection. Another tire could be the Big Apple Plus or the Big Ben Plus, and that's something to consider as well. So 20-inch wheels, front and rear, standard Schrader valve. It's a rigid fork up front, and most people find that that works just fine, especially with these wider tires. Nice fenders, front and rear. They're SKS, kind of a polycarbonate material. So since this is the S10, it has the Shimano Dior 10-speed rear derailleur set up with the 11 to 36 cassette. Now the Q9 version is going to have a 9-speed derailleur and a slightly different spec. Now, one of the nice features about this derailleur is it has the Shadow Plus system. So the standard derailleur it shifts normally, and it's it's pretty flexible. But once you activate this Shadow Plus switch here, it makes it really stiff. This is really great if you're riding a rougher terrain or riding off-road, that sort of thing. But I find that this derailleur works really well. You'll see it on a lot of electric bikes, especially those of higher quality, because it's paired really nicely with the electric motor system. So the motor on this one is the Bosch Active Line Plus, and the Active Line Plus has 50 Newton meters of torque, which is slightly less than their performance line, but a slight uptick from the Active line, which you'll find on the Q9 model. The Q9 model has 40 Newton meters of torque. This one's 50. I find it really works perfect for this sort of bike, and this motor is kind of unique in that it's really easy to pedal without power. It has that large chain ring up front, so it's a one-to-one relationship. They removed the reduction gear because this is what's considered Generation 3, slight change from the Generation 2 motors, which are pretty popular even still. But let's check out the other side. We'll talk a bit more about the motor. So you can see the motor a little bit better from this side. I mean, on the other side, the motor is really hidden behind the chain ring. But even still, it's integrated pretty well into the frame, and I think it works well in this sort of setup. Now, the Bosch system uses a technology called pedal assist, which basically means that you pedal and it assists you. Now, there's a couple different sensors that the bike uses in order to provide a really seamless experience. Inside, there's a sensor which senses how fast you're pedaling. There's another that senses how hard you're pedaling. And then on the rear wheel, there's a sensor which senses how fast the bike is going overall. And the system processes that information at 1,000 times per second, which is really pretty significant. And based on that, they're able to provide a really seamless experience of how the power is delivered. Now, as I stated before, you can also ride this bike very easily without power, and there's little to no resistance in the motor. So this is a good bike if you wanted to mix that on and off of the power. The power levels can vary. You can ride it from eco mode at about a 50% assistance, and then up to turbo mode at 250%. So good difference there. At the top level of assistance, you really don't have to work too hard to get the bike going pretty well. For the power on this system, it uses the Bosch PowerPack 400. It's a 400 watt-hour battery, which means it's 36 volts, 11.4 amp hours. And really plenty of power for this sort of bike, but you could certainly go with a larger battery or carry along an additional pack if you wanted to ride really long distances. On average, most people will see around 30 miles out of this battery, but you can get upwards of 70 or so miles on the low level of assistance, and around 20 miles if you're really pushing it and maxing it out under the less ideal conditions. To charge the battery, you can charge it on the bike through this port here. It is a little bit tight quarters with this chain guard right here, so I think that a lot of people might find it easier just to remove the battery, and you can do so by using this key here. So the battery is locked in place on the bike, and that's nice for some added security. And I appreciate that they added this chain guard, and it's going to keep your pants clean even if the chain gets a little dirty over time. And one of the really nice features of this particular Vektron, this is kind of the generation 2. They initially released it with a lighter weight rack, but then they really beefed this one up. And they took some of their experience from the GSD, which has a similar style rack, but much longer and a little bit stronger. This one has the weight capacity of 59 pounds, which works really well. The nice thing about that is you can run a child seat, and on top of that you can also carry additional cargo. Usually a child seat is rated for up to around 50 pounds, so to have the ability to add a bit more is really nice. Some other details that are unique about this rack is it has these little foot pegs on the back here, and that gives you the ability to stand the bike up when it's folded. Now, it's also possible to insert wheels in here to make it easier for rolling around. When I was talking about that scenario of maybe putting a cover on it, rolling through an elevator or a train, that sort of thing. So I think that's a really nice feature and something that's very unique to Tern specifically. Speaking about child seats, it can fit the standard YEP Easy Fit adapter, as well as now the YEP Next system, which clamps to the edges here. So it's nice to have that versatility. And we also have these straps that come standard, so these kind of bungee straps, and you can fit them on the rack in a variety of different ways, but nice to be able to just strap something on there, whether it's a bag or a jacket or whatnot. For the shifter, we have the Shimano Dior 10-speed trigger shifter, and you can shift 3 gears going down and 1 going up at a time. Now, usually you don't want to shift the gears when you're not pedaling, but I just wanted to demonstrate how that system works. I find it really performs very well and quite like it. The grips on the bike are the Ergon GP1s, all black, which I think works really well with the bike. And then for the brake levers, we have the Magura MT4 hydraulic disc brakes, and I find that they perform really well for this bike. For the calipers, we have the Magura MT4 dual piston, and really work well for this setup. 160mm rotors front and rear, and I think it's perfect for this compact bike. So the Vektron set up with the Purion display, which is a compact display, pretty durable and pretty simple in its functions. To turn it on, we just hit the power button right here. Just takes a couple seconds. By default, we're going to be in the off mode, so that's just like riding the bike with no assistance. And you have the miles per hour, and you're going to show the battery life here on the bottom. To change the assistance level, you're going to hit the plus button here, and we go up to the first level of assistance, which is Eco mode. That's about a 50% boost. Tour mode is about 100%. Sport mode is about 175, and turbo mode is 250%. So pretty dramatic assistance at the top level there. These are slightly different on the active line motor, which you'll find on the Q9 model. You can cycle through some of the other details on the display by holding the minus button down. You can see the tripometer. Now, if you wanted to reset the tripometer, you can hold the plus and minus button down for a couple seconds, and that will reset. You can hold the minus button down again. You get to the total, which is the odometer here, One more time, we're going to get into the range. Now this is going to show based on what assistance level you're in. So turbo mode, you're going to show 17 miles. Now if you rode, actually, if you had 5 bars, you're probably going to see this somewhere around 25 or more. And that's going to vary depending on how you're riding, like what the terrain is, your weight, etc. Hold the minus button down one more time and you get into just show the assistance levels. One other detail I wanted to show on the display here is we have what's called walk assist. Now, if you're in a specific assistance level, you can activate what's called walk assist. So you're just going to tap this button down here on the bottom, and then you're going to hold the plus button. And by doing so, you'll actually rotate the motor. And it's really good if you got the bike loaded up and you're walking through a crowded area, or say you're walking the bike up a hill and you just don't want to push the weight of it. The walk assist is a really nice option. And the last detail I wanted to show is to activate the lights. So if you hold the plus button down for a couple of seconds, you're going to turn the lights on. You see this little icon here. Now, these lights, you can change the headlight with a switch to turn it on and off. So off and on, and then the tail light will always be on when the lights are activated. Well, I hope you guys found this video to be helpful and you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions about the bike or just electric bikes in general, just leave them in the comments below or just reach out, because I'm always happy to help. And I look forward to seeing you in a future video. All right, see you soon.